Thank you for tuning in to the Practical Preservation Podcast. Please take a moment to visit our website, practicalpreservationservices.com, for additional information and tips to help you restore your historical home. If you've not done so, please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, and also like us on Facebook. Welcome to the Practical Preservation Podcast, hosted by Danielle and Jonathan Kepperling. Kepperling Preservation Services is a family-owned business based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, dedicated to the preservation of our built architectural history for today's use as well as future generations. Our weekly podcast provides you with expert advice specific to the unique needs of renovating a historic home, educating by sharing our From the Trenches preservation knowledge and our guests' expertise, balancing modern needs while maintaining the historical significance, character, and beauty of your period home.
Today on the Practical Preservation Podcast, we have Robert Blackson with us from Temple University. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your background.
Sure. I'm trained as a curator, so I've been putting art shows and projects and public events together for about 20 years now. I've done it here in Philadelphia. Prior to moving to Philly, I was living in the UK and did it over there. So it comes from a deep-seated belief, honestly, that culture is something that civilizes us. And so I'm strongly committed and indebted to the idea that art can transform us, and through that, our society. And from those changes, we can find new ways to work with one another.
Yeah, I think that understanding, in preservation, we talk about, or I talk a lot, I don't know if everybody does, about the collective, like our collective built history. And it's everybody's history. And I think it's just another way of connecting. A lot of the best employees we've ever had have come out of the art world. So I think there's an overlap of art and preservation. So tell me what, about ghost signs, ghost murals. Tell me what are they?
Yeah. I mean, no one starts out intending to make a ghost mural or a ghost sign. It's something that only happens because of the weathering of time. And back 120 years ago, and really up until about the early 70s, the primary way that a business, any kind of business, would advertise what it is that they're offering, and that what they do is through lettering, through hand-painted lettered signs. And the bigger the building, the bigger the sign, quite honestly. Right. So I know that there's now a debate around billboards and things like this along the roadside, but it was not uncommon to walk through a neighborhood, and as much as the business was that you were looking at, like the physical brick and mortar was a business, there was a whole other business of painting those bricks and that mortar, with advertisements related to the various different businesses that were in the neighborhood. And it was quite territorial in the sense of there was coding involved in relationship to which colors were used and which colors denoted which nationalities owned the business and all these kinds of things. So it was an art form, and it remains an art form to this day. You can still enroll in programs to learn how to sign paint. So I don't like to call it a dying art, because I don't believe that it is. Right. And at the same time, it was also a mechanism used to clearly show your artistry. So it had a dual purpose of being those, very graphic identities, but also something that you were brought up as a tradesperson and a skill.
To highlight.
Yeah, and you can still see it, so the whole idea of the ghost signs comes from this idea that when we look at a building, whether it's a warehouse or a factory or an existing building today that's still operating, you can see the remnants through the peeling paints and layers of that paint on the different businesses that have been here in Philadelphia extraordinarily well. One of my favorite examples is there is a excuse me, there is an ice cream store on Market Street, like Market and Second, called the Franklin Fountain.
Yes.
And for all intents and purposes, it looks like an amazing ice cream store, and it is. But if you let your gaze go upwards and look to their second and third and fourth stories, you'll see that it's also has been a fishing tackle store, because you can still make out the painting from a previous sign. And that sense of the reuse of our space,
Yes.
and the multiplicities of use that we've had throughout this city and so many others, I think that sign painting is a beautiful callback to recognize that we are living in other people's shoes and other people's steps over time.
Right. Yeah.
So it has a beautiful historic connection to the way that we see our current environment, and we can also recognize the way in which this urban center has been other environments in the past for different purposes.
Yeah, I could see that connection, and I will have to pay attention now when next time I'm downtown to see to look up and see, because I never noticed that. So
yeah, I mean it's a beautiful exercise, just forcing yourself to not look at eye level, but looking up. Yeah. You not only notice previous generations of businesses, but you also notice beautiful flourishes of architecture that are,
I do often look up at the cornices and the those things that people don't always look up and see. And I have a friend who's like, you're always looking around. I'm like, because that's and walking's a big thing too. Like if I'm not, if driving through, you don't notice as much as if you actually get out and walk around the neighborhood or the downtown area.
Yeah, that's one of the largest, I would say, unfortunately, one of the largest impacts that the automobile has made is that it really streamlines and narrows your view of the area around you.
It does, yeah.
And so that's one of the nice things about walking, is that your view isn't restricted in that way. But yeah, there's a whole new city above the first floor.
Yes. So I was thinking, when you were talking about the signs, I was thinking, I know some of the larger companies also paid, like Coca-Cola, and I'm thinking of the tobacco. There was a tobacco company that did the barns. Do you see that so much in Philadelphia, or is it more like just to know what company was in that building?
There's a mixture.
Okay.
And it's a funny mixture as well. There are a lot of businesses that still have their old sign painting series up, and there's other businesses, like, for example, if you're at the East Falls station and you look north on the SEPTA line, so you're on regional rail by now, and you look at the end of the platform, you'll see the remnants of a hardware store sign that was painted there. But it's also, as well as much as being an advertisement for the hardware store, it's a dual advertisement for the Pink Panther installation company. So you may remember that years ago, Pink Panther was selling insulation.
I think they still do, but I remember being a little girl, and that's the kind I wanted my dad to buy because I like the Pink Panther. So.
Yeah, so you can see that financially there's a dual thing going on. I'm sure that there was a kickback
I'm sure
to the hardware store for painting Pink Panther, 20 feet by 10 feet.
Yeah.
So it was doing two purposes at once. It was promoting individual local businesses, but it was also promoting larger national businesses within the artistry.
Yeah, kind of like a I can't think of what that's called, but when like a not a sponsorship, but the larger company will come in and say, we'll buy you shirts or whatever, so that you can then promote their business also.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the Vital Signs project.
Yeah. Well, Vital Signs is a project that's been going on for probably 7-8 years now. And I'm a biker, so I bike around town. I bike to work. I bike up 13th Street every day when I go to work to Temple from South Philly. And at 13th and Girard, there is a locksmith, the Hensler Locksmith. It's a 4-generation family-owned business. It's a German business, and they make, sell, change locks, and they've been doing it in the neighborhood for a long, long time. I think it's 1902 when they started. John Hensler, who owns the business, was born in the building. His uncle's born in the building. The whole shebang.
Yeah.
But they had this sign that was just deteriorating on the side of their business. And so one day I just got off my bike and went in and introduced myself and said, I bike past your business every day, and to be quite honest with you, I thought this place was closed because your sign looks pretty raggedy, and a lot of things on display in the windows look a little old. He's like, no, we're still here. We do great business with the neighborhood. But to be honest with you, a lot of people who just drive past don't recognize that we're still here.
Right.
He says, I've been trying to get that sign repainted for years, but the quotes that I'm getting are just astronomical. There's no way as a small business I'm ever going to be able to afford that.
Right.
And I said, well, I'm literally biking another half a mile into North Philly, and I'm going into a building where there are painters painting every day.
Right.
Who would take this job on within a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, if you want to make something happen, that'd be great. And so we made something happen. We worked with the Mural Arts program here in Philadelphia, and they supplied all of the scaffolding and all of the technical assistance that we needed. We supplied a lot of the hands. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we, went up to the side of the building and started work. And it still holds to this day. It's a beautiful hand-painted sign, completely within the same tradition that was done originally on the side of the Hensler Locksmith Company. The only change that John Hensler asked us to make was that we changed the green around the sign, that it was the green painted border that was around the original sign, to be changed to blue. It's like, blue is my favorite color, but it had to be green for my grandfather because he's German. And people knew that if there was green on the building and the frame, that it was a German-owned business.
Oh.
But he's like, now no one knows that stuff. It doesn't mean anything. So let's make it blue. I like blue. So I was like, sure, we can do blue.
Right.
And so that began my appreciation of the coding, but also my appreciation of how important these changes are. Because shortly after we repainted the sign, his business got an uptick because people were excited about the work that was being done to the building. It looked better for the neighborhood. And also it showed people who were just passing by who hadn't stopped before, like, wow, this looks like a pretty cool place. It's got a hand-painted sign. Before, the hand-painted sign looked like it was neglected.
Right.
Now it looked like it was loved. And so there was a difference there. Through that uptick in John's business and just the general buzz that people seemed to have from that work getting done, we started the process of opening it up to more businesses. And I think now we're up to 7 or 8.
Okay.
And they all follow the same blueprint. They're all family-owned and operated businesses, oftentimes multi-generational businesses. And they all started off with a hand-painted sign. So we're not adding new signage technically.
Right.
We're really just going in and giving a facelift.
Yeah.
Now there are moments when, as we were talking earlier about the Pink Panther stuff,
right,
sometimes they had prices.
Oh yeah.
Painted on the side. They don't want to do those same prices.
Right.
Obvious reasons. But they do want to keep to their same message. So, for example, when we did the Philadelphia Tribune, the oldest African-American owned and operated newspaper in the city of Philadelphia, it was a great way to reinstate, their commitment to the community and the services that they provide. When we worked with Cunningham Pianos up in Germantown, and again, another great way to show that this is a very unique business that's operating in your neighborhood, and it's offering a very unique service. These are services that are sometimes, sadly, maybe not forgotten, but just sort of becomes part of the furniture. And so doing this project in this way, excuse me, helps to lift these businesses that have been owned and operated for generations in these neighborhoods to have a sense of reinstated belonging, not just to the fabric of the building, of course, but to the overall economic vitality of that neighborhood, to show that, we've been here working with this community for generations, and our commitment continues. And we're showing that by redoing our sign. So that's why we call it vital signs.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. And you're also providing hands-on training to the students. Is that, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
That's
so
right.
and an experience that they might not otherwise, get a chance to do. So what are your biggest challenges that you encounter with the project, or have you encountered?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that one of the greatest challenges of the program, on a lot of levels, is just continuing it. We do it completely for free.
Yeah.
So we never charge a penny to the business. We don't, even though we partner with Mural Arts to supply some of the paint and the scaffolding. And also Mural Arts has done this so many times when they do just regular murals around the city.
Oh,
That
yes.
they have it down pat in terms of the insurance waivers and things like this. But it's a heavy lift, quite honestly, to find the right businesses, make the right connection, and then continue on with the work. The students are really engaged. The painters, the master painters that come in, whether they are formally trained sign painters or they can do it because they've just been painting for that long.
Right.
All of those skills are completely necessary. So you have to kind of get the dream team together every time we do one to make sure that it's going to have that same dexterity and that same quality of look that the business is hoping for. Because even though we're doing it for free, we're doing it to lift up.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want it to look free.
No, not on any level. Not on any level. And thankfully, I'm proud to say that we haven't.
Right.
But we do have to make sure that it's the right fit. There are a lot of businesses that want to have a hand-painted sign on the side of their building because now it's become cool.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to say, like, look, that's not this program.
Right.
If you want to hire a sign painter, of which there are many across the city, you can totally do that. But we're not here to provide free advertising.
Right.
We're here to provide historic preservation for your business and to lift up your commitment to this neighborhood and the city.
Yeah. And I think that's important because you're providing a service. You have to stay with what you're doing, and it's preservation. It's preservation of the history of not only the building but the business, especially these multi-generational businesses. How long does it take for you to do a sign? I was just curious.
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on the sign. We did a Langhorne Carpet Company. That was probably the furthest afield we've been. Langhorne is about 20 minutes outside the city. The Langhorne Carpet Company is this amazing factory where they are hand weaving carpets that are used all across the world.
Yeah.
So carpets in the White House, the red carpet that was used when the Pope came to Philadelphia. Like, these are the kinds of jobs that they take on.
Yeah.
They're amazing. But their sign was like 70 feet long.
Oh my
Huge.
Goodness. Yeah.
So so it took us maybe 3 weeks to do that.
That's still impressive for that big.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a solid job. We do them over the summer when there's more time to get them done and the weather's better. And just talk about the Langhorne Carpet Company for a minute. When we did that, it was when we sort of quote unquote unveiled it. Like when the last stroke on the paint job was done, the mayor of Langhorne was there. the state police were there. It was a moment of celebration because that carpet company has been there for so long, and it became again a reinstatement of values. So
that, and I know, I'm sure it's the same way because you create things too. But when a project's done, it's kind of you're glad that it's done because but you can look back and see all of the work that's gone into it, and that does fill. I'm sure that you have some fulfillment in that too.
Definitely. I mean, because these, I still bike by the Hensler Locksmith sign every day when I'm out by Langhorne and I see the carpet company, or when I see the silk screening signs that we had done, or Kafari's pretzels. Everything's, they're still going on. And that's a beautiful statement to continue.
Yes. So how can someone contact you?
Well, they're welcome to email me, or they can call me. My email address is my name with a dot between the first and last name. So it's robert.blackson@temple.edu. And my office line is 215-777-9139.
9139.
Yep.
Okay. And I'll make sure those are on our website too, where the podcast gets placed. And are there ways that someone can help, or do you like take nominations for signs? Is there?
Yeah. We'll take nominations for signs.
Okay.
That would be best.
Okay.
Because what happens is, I'm only as good at this as my eyes.
Right.
And I'm not all over the city at the moment. We're hoping to do 2 more. One is a shoe store, and the other is a music store. These are both in South Philly.
Okay.
But again, I live in South Philly. I bike up to North Philly, and so I kind of am blocked in by the places that I see.
Right. Yeah. I think everybody is, because I know there's parts that I'll be like, oh, if I don't go someplace in a while, I'm like, oh, that's different than the last time I was this way. So yeah, you definitely, you need eyes everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, a good example would be there's a cooking supply, a restaurant supply store over there at about 2nd and Arch. There's a few cooking supply places over there.
Yes.
Restaurant suppliers. And it was these beautiful hand-painted signs of enameled cookware and pots and pans and all this kind of stuff. And it was, starting to come off, and the business was there. And so I was like, okay, I'm in a rush now, but I'll go back in 2 weeks and we'll set it up. Went back in 2 weeks, sign on the side of the building, sold. So sadly, many of these businesses, because of the gentrification in the city,
right,
is starting to melt away. And so I do feel a little bit of an urgency now that I didn't feel when we began the project, quite frankly.
I can see that, yeah.
But now things for the city are taking off, thankfully, in some regard. But with that comes the disappearance, really.
Right, of the smaller businesses, yeah.
So I would hope that even if the sad news is that some of the businesses that we've worked with over the years do have to close for a variety of economic reasons,
right,
that at least the work that we did on the building before it was sold or the business had to move on can remain as a proud marker of what once stood there.
Right. And it shows what the building was used for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, well, very good. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you about that you wanted to share?
No. This was
okay.
Really helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks for listening to the Practical Preservation Podcast. The resources discussed during this episode are on our website at practicalpreservationservices.com/podcast. If you received value from this episode and know someone else that will get value from it as well, please share it with them. Join us next week for another episode of the Practical Preservation Podcast. For more information on restoring your historic home, visit practicalpreservationservices.com.